Hi, I'm Leslie Ferry, the founder of Brize and the host of the Bright and Wise podcast. Let's unleash your greatness with today's topic.
Okay, Pam, let's move to our fourth effective leadership attribute, which is proactively creating culture. So what does that mean to start with?
Okay. Well, when we think about culture, sometimes we think culture is how social our organization is. Do we do things together? Do we like each other? Do we hang out together? That sort of thing. But really, when we talk about culture, it's really a shared set of values and beliefs and practices. It's sort of the way that your organization does things, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically how you operate. So what's important is culture. I like for people to think about culture two ways. People are bringing themselves into an organization, their beliefs, their values, their aspirations about what their job should be and what kind of team they should be on and that sort of thing. But then the organization also has its visions, its values, its goals. And so those things end up colliding or combining together to make the culture. So you end up in a culture, having a culture, whether you're explicitly intending it for it to be this particular culture or not. And so the message here is you want it to be really intentional. Culture is unspoken, but it really is, you have to be intentional about nurturing the culture that you want in an organization. Good culture will drive employee engagement. People collaborate better, the teaming is better, all of that. So this one is a little tricky in terms of actionable tips. There's three main areas I want people to think about. The first is value alignment. The second really is everything should be people-centered when we're talking about culture. And then the third is building trust. So with the value alignment, what you want to test is, are your values and the organization values in alignment? So when we talked about you're bringing your stuff to the job, your values, that sort of thing, and then the organization has its goals, its values, and things of that nature, you want to test that out a little bit. So when you meet with people, do their values line up as you're having conversations? Are you hearing the same thing? That makes sure that the values are aligned. Are your personal values are aligned? That sort of thing. So the value alignment is a key tip for good culture. The second, being people-centered. What you want to do is, are there connections that people are making in the organization? How often do you connect with people in the organization? Or do you have one-on-ones with the people that work with you? Do you have one-on-ones with your peers and that sort of thing? What are the mechanisms you're using to connect with people to sort of understand what's important to them? And then as a leader, are you creating positive employee experiences? Like everything, you need to be thinking everything about this person in your organization because they're bringing their values and their beliefs and everything to this organization. Are they having the kind of experience that they were hoping that they would have? And then the third being building trust. Practicing open and clear communication helps build culture. People are not trying to figure out what you mean when you're saying something. And whatever it is that you're saying, you also are modeling the behavior, things of that nature. And then are there opportunities that people have to express what they're thinking, what they're feeling? That's all part of building trust. Are they able to communicate back to the organization what's on their mind, what's important to them, and that sort of thing? So I think the way you know you're doing it right, given all of that, is that you're finding in your conversations that people seem to be aligned with the organization's values. But it takes you having conversations with people to understand that. You're not going to get that through a survey, I don't think. I mean, you can kind of do an anonymous survey and get some information. But I think at the end of the day, people really just have to talk to each other and get a sense for what are their expectations. Are you in alignment with the direction that this organization is going and vice versa? And then you'll know. And then you'll know whether or not you are creating the kind of culture that you're looking for.
Great. So if I could summarize, it sounds like I loved how you said you need to be intentional about it, and that that's the proactive nature of it, right? You need to define what you want it to be. Otherwise, it's going to naturally occur on its own, which could be far from what you want it to be, right?
Yep.
Then you need to activate it or live it. And it starts from the top down, from who
It does.
Everyone, it needs to cascade throughout the organization. And I love it. And the way that I interpreted what you said, to really know if it's working or not, you talk to people.
You have to talk to people.
Yeah. You engage in conversations around it and make sure that what is intended is actually how people feel. And if
That's
it's
right.
not, then you can take actions to correct it, or you know that you're doing it well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the one thing that I'm noticing in any of my coaching conversations is that these days people don't spend a lot of time talking to each other.
Yes.
There's a lot of automatic ways we can get feedback from people with surveys and things of that nature. But I find in having a one-on-one conversation with people, you learn things that you would not, you're just not going to get in a survey, right?
Right.
And the conversation could go in whatever direction it needs to go, and you'll get unsolicited information.
Right.
That's important to understand how they're feeling, how their peers are feeling, how the company's feeling in general.
Yeah, I like that, because yes, you can get some directional information from a survey, and even with writing in on the survey, but open-ended questions lead to open-ended questions, right?
That's
so
right.
You ask an open-ended question and get some information, and then you can take the path to make sure that you clarify if you misunderstood. You actually have a two-way conversation, and you can get
That's
clarity.
right.
And it becomes more action. It just becomes more actionable and
It
informative,
does.
I guess is the right way to say it.
And meaningful, right? Because
Meaningful.
now you've had this one-on-one conversation with this person. They feel like they've been heard. And because we talked about communication earlier, you and that person you're having that conversation with walked away with the same understanding. And so now it's personal. They shared what they're thinking, what their wishes are, and that sort of thing. And it's up to you now in a leadership position to decide, is that in alignment with the culture that you want? And if so, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
So
excellent. Good. Well, that's the proactive nature. We want to be.
That's the proactive nature.
We want to be intentional, make sure it cascades down. And especially if you're in a really large organization, right? The multinationals, we have to make sure there aren't these individual pop-up cultures, if you will. So
yeah, and it happens, and you just that there has to be this sort of underlying culture that is seeping out into all of the. You'll have all of these other cultures that are popping up, and that's good. But you want to make sure, as a leader, that they all sort of tie back to the organization's values and goals and what you're trying to do there. Because if you're not careful, it could be, you could end up in a very bad situation with cultures that are not representative of what you want that organization to be.
Right. I love it when when someone can align an action or a decision or something to say, because this is how we do business, and that what that means is we're living the culture, right? That's
right. Exactly.
So be intentional, I think, is a big takeaway.
Be intentional and talk to people.
Get feedback. Feedback is always great. Good.
If you find our podcast interesting, please leave us a rating and review so others can benefit too. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.